United States has officially begun a maritime blockade in and around the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most critical energy shipping routes. US President Donald Trump warned Iran that any fast attack ships approaching the blockade zone will be immediately eliminated. More than 15 US warships are in place to support the operation. Donald Trump claimed that Iran's navy has been completely obliterated, saying that more than 150 vessels have already been destroyed. Iran has strongly rejected the move, calling US restrictions on vessels in international waters illegal, and warned that it could implement a permanent mechanism to control access to the strait if a blockade is enforced. Iran's foreign minister spokesperson Ismail Baghai has criticized the US blockade and said, "Can an illegal war of choice be won through a revenge of choice against the global economy?"
Has the blockade started, sir?
Yeah, started at 10 o'clock.
President Donald Trump said a U.S. military blockade of ships leaving Iran's ports had begun on Monday, as Tehran threatened to retaliate against its Gulf neighbors' ports after peace talks failed to end the conflict over the weekend.
If they don't agree, there's no deal. There'll never be a deal.
Outside the Oval Office, Trump said Iran had been in touch on Monday and wanted to make a deal, but that he will not approve any agreement that allows Tehran to have a nuclear weapon.
We're not going to let that happen.
Earlier, Trump warned that any Iranian fast attack ship that goes near the U.S. maritime blockade would be, quote, eliminated. U.S. Central Command said the blockade would be, quote, enforced impartially against vessels of all nations entering or leaving Iranian ports in the Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. 2 Iranian-linked tankers laden with oil products left the strait on Monday before the deadline, LSEG data shows. An Iranian military spokesperson called any U.S. restrictions on international shipping piracy. NATO allies, including Britain and France, said they would not be drawn into the conflict by taking part in the blockade. Instead, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer told Parliament on Monday that he and French President Emmanuel Macron will convene a summit of leaders to, quote, ensure freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz.
And let me be very clear. This is about safeguarding shipping and supporting freedom of navigation once the conflict ends.
Iranian political analyst Mohammad Ghaddari said the U.S. blockade will only lift energy prices again.
Look, when the other side wants to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, logically surrounding it only adds another problem. But what is Trump's argument? His argument is that if Iran wants to prevent passage through the strait, then he will prevent Iran's passage in a much wider area. This does not solve America's problem. Yes, it imposes pressure on Iran, but it does not resolve America's problem. What does this mean? It means that the story of the escalating rise in energy prices will continue.
Trump announced the blockade after discussions in Islamabad between the sides over the weekend failed to reach a final agreement, including on lifting an Iranian threat to strike cargo ships transiting the Strait of Hormuz. Those talks came after Tehran and Washington agreed last week to a 2-week ceasefire. But on Sunday, Washington said Tehran rejected its demands, and Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said they had encountered, quote, maximalism, shifting goalposts, and blockade from the United States at the talks. Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif said efforts were still on to resolve the conflict.